There seems to be a generally accepted truth. To improve your future, you have to work out what went wrong in your past. Most people assume that this rule also applies to problems in the relationship. After coaching couples for 50 years, I have discovered it ain't necessarily so. Yes, there are instances where going straight towards a happy relationship is not possible. But these cases are way less frequent than a situation where it is possible to leave old troubles behind and create a more enjoyable relationship. Okay, I can see the skeptical look on your face. So let me tell you my explanation of why things may be different from what everyone assumes. You probably think that your behavior is simply a reaction to the actions of your partner. You take for granted if your partner would always be nice to you, you'd be more than willing to show the same loving behavior in turn. But when they are not, then you have to defend yourself. I think you get the idea. That seems so obvious that nobody even considers questioning this assumption. But actually our behavior towards our partner is not a simple reaction to his behavior in the past, but rather our conclusions, what we expect from him in the future. Sure, that is influenced how they acted in the past, but it is not determined by it. Our assumptions of how our spouse will behave next is formed by our interpretation of his behavior in the past. Let me give you a simple example. If you listen to a couple that is deeply in love and has a difference in preference, it may sound like this. It is okay if we go to the little Italian restaurant that I have been missing for a while? Sure, let's do it. I was actually thinking about Chinese food, but no problem. Let's do Italian tonight. Oh no, of course, if you prefer Chinese, that's fine. We can always have Italian food some other night. This is how a loving couple quarrel about a difference in appetite. On the other hand, this is how a couple argues that has lost that loving feeling. But rest assured, they both wish nevertheless to have a loving partner. I really want to go to our old Italian restaurant tonight. I've wanted to go there for a while, but we never did. What? Again Italian? Do you know how long we have not been to my favorite Chinese restaurant? We always do things your way. That is not true. In the last couple of months, it was always the places you insisted on going, ignoring what I wanted, and so on. I'm sure you can add the rest of the dialogue. In both cases, the difference in appetite is the same, but the handling is so very different. The first couple will enjoy their meal no matter which restaurant they will finally go to after they've settled their quarrel. On the other hand, the second couple will probably spoil each other's dishes no matter how wonderful it was prepared by the chef of either restaurant. Now, let's look at the reasons for the difference between the two situations. A loving couple is convinced, my partner will do anything to make sure that I feel good. They want me to be happy. Therefore, I can be generous towards his wishes. I feel very secure. They will be more than willing to reciprocate my generosity. A couple where both want to be loved by the other but feel that this is presently not the case, think differently. If I do not care of my needs, nobody will. I have to defend myself against the egotistic wishes of my partner. If I grant him anything, they will take advantage of my nice behavior and I will never get to eat in my favorite restaurant again. The point I'm trying to make here is this. The problem is not that the two people want to go to different restaurants, but of what they are convinced of. The problem is their belief about the intentions of the spouse and therefore his future behavior. This is what we call relationship bias. It is simply your assumptions how your partner will behave in a specific situation. For instance, how you believe they will react when you tell him where you want to dine out tonight. Now, when I say you believe, it really means you are convinced of. It does not feel like a possibility to you, but you are sure you can predict the future. And that is the reason why couples with a negative bias have such a hard time getting back to their loving behavior. The expected behavior of the spouse does not seem like a possible behavior, but a certainty that cannot be questioned. Bottom line, if you know your spouse will not be nice to you, you feel the need to defend yourself against his expected behavior. But if you feel convinced that they will react wonderfully when you approach him, you will go towards him with open arms. You're not convinced. You think this may be true in the simple case, but in your relationship, the reasons for your conflicts go deeper. Okay, give me a chance to convince you that going after the deeper reasons for the conflicts in your relationship is not the only option to go forward, in most cases, an unnecessary detour. Imagine the following scene. With some surprise, you notice your partner has done something nice that you did not expect. It was just a little thing, like getting the milk from the fridge, although only you put milk in your coffee. Even as this is just a little thing, it makes you feel respected, taken care of, or let's just call it loved. The milk is a triviality, but that feeling that those few drops of milk lead to is certainly one of the most important things on earth. Now let's further assume that after your spouse made you feel this way, actually they don't make you feel this way, but you did it yourself. I will say more about this later. Okay, so put yourself in this loving state of mind. And now let's assume as they sit down, they push your arm and you spill some of your coffee. How would you spontaneously react? Of course, I cannot know for sure, but what I assume through my experience with couples is this. You would spontaneously react differently than if you had not noticed that they put the milk on the table just for you. If you registered the positive action of your spouse, it would be much easier for you to say, oh, don't worry, it's just coffee and I'll get something to wipe it off. On the other hand, if you had not noticed the milk of your partner brought to the table, but instead had only heard him complaining about something you did yesterday, then I assume you would react quite differently. As I've already explained, your bias, your conviction about how your spouse will behave in the future, determines your behavior towards him. And now I claim which way your bias turns depends on what part of your partner's behavior you concentrate on. The more you notice the positive things that they do, the more positive your bias will be, and therefore the more positive your behavior will be towards him. So let me reiterate. Your view of the relationship determines your behavior and not the behavior of your spouse directly. Yes, they need to show some positive action for you to start noticing his positive side. But in the end, you decide what you see and what fails to reach the attention of your brain. You have to know that of the many millions of impressions that reach our senses every moment, our brain only selects some 40 things. Therefore, it is your view of the world and also of your relationship formed through what you selected of all the things that are. What makes this selection even more limiting is the fact that you not only do not know what you missed in observing, but your brain gives you the impression that what you noticed is all there is to notice, and you did not miss a thing. Therefore, it is very difficult for me to convince you of the following. Even your spouse shows some positive behavior. I'm afraid whatever I will now tell you in a theoretical way, you will insist that I do not know your partner and not all the things you have tried to improve your relationship, but had no cooperation from your special other. So I suggest an experiment that you can try even without the cooperation of your spouse. Reserve 1 minute each day for this search. What was a nice moment in our relationship in the last 24 hours? Do not ask, was there a nice moment, but rather assume there was one and you need to search in your memory to find it. Please do not be choosy and look for an extraordinary one. Cherry pick the first one that comes to your mind. Very important. Make a short written note of it. You can use the Love Graffiti wall, which I offer virtually on my homepage, or just use a notepad. But you must fixate it somewhere. Do not spend more than 1 minute on this meditation. If you spend too much time trying perfection, you will have no inclination to do it regularly. But it needs the daily exercise to show an effect. Now, in several experiments, it could be shown that getting into this little 1 minute habit will convince people that their partner did more small positive things that they assumed before they started collecting their love moments. Maybe this will change your view in your relationship, and also you will discover that what you saw before was only a selection of what you could discover about your partner. I am so convinced of this fact that I offer you a challenge. If you start collecting those small love moments that they may have gone unnoticed in the past for the next 4 weeks and find it does not cause different behavior in your relationship, I will offer you a coaching session on video conferencing with no cost for you. This is your end of the bargain. If you find that the way you and your partner see each other leads to nicer behavior to each other, then you tell me about it. And in this way, confirm my conviction by telling me that one more couple has proven that it is possible to improve the future without correcting the past.